What's going on, everybody? Brian here again. Thank you so much for coming back and checking out the channel. Today I'm taking you on a little side trip, and because we're kind of in between seasons right now, the salmon have already blown through, the steelhead aren't here yet. I wanted to bring you out to show you a very special place in the history of Oregon fishing, which is the very first hatchery ever. It's just down the bluff from where I'm at. Where I'm standing right now is the oldest log structure in Oregon. This was built in 1856 by Horace Baker and the surrounding community here. He owned this mountain that it backs up to where the actual fish hatchery is, and it's got a lot of cool history here. So I thought I'd stop here, do the video intro, and show you guys around a little bit. We're gonna bomb down the hill. We're gonna go check out this old hatchery site. We're gonna follow up with a little bit of history. So make sure you stay tuned. And if you haven't yet, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and a thumbs up. This way, just around the corner, is the site of the first fish hatchery in Oregon. It was constructed in 1877, and technically it was a mile further downriver, and then it was reconstructed because we have this beautiful creek right here that had enough water to supply for the fish to actually run up and get to the hatchery. Now, right behind the camera here is one of the old weir footings that was actually a part of the original hatchery. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of that and some of this other footage. We'll go down to the mouth of the river. You can see the size of the river, neck down to the size of the creek. Then we'll go up there. We'll take a look at this old hatchery building. Now imagine we were standing in the physical water itself. Right now, this creek is very low, but typically it comes up above that old weir footing right there. And that was a part of the original weir system that went to this hatchery. I'm standing on a little gravel bar here that juts out into the creek. But this is a part of that original hatchery system that was put in here. And the reason for this hatchery was to increase stocks of salmon. That way we would have the commercial fisheries being supplied with enough salmon to keep the commercial fishing going. It was recognized early on that if we did not replenish the stocks of fish, that we were going to run out of the wild stock that was already naturally propagating. The hatchery building itself was downriver. This is a nice big creek, and it fills up. And if you look at where I'm at here and where that log is, the creek, when it's in prime condition for the fish to run up, will actually be up above that log, which is about 4 to 5 feet deeper. So this was a prime location to place a fish hatchery, because the other part of it was that right down there, about 200 yards, was the main river itself. Let's go down there and take a look at the main river. This scene might be familiar to a lot of you here in the Pacific Northwest, especially if you've seen any of the Clackamas commercials. It's because we are in the town of Carver, Oregon, and this is the Clackamas River. If you take a look at this river, the river is a fairly large river in the lower river system, and you can pretty much tell where the fish may or may not be at any given point. But where we're standing at is the confluence of the Clackamas River and Clear Creek. And Clear Creek is the location of the very first fish hatchery in Oregon. Technically it was about a mile downriver, but because the river and the creek ran out of water, they disassembled the hatchery building and they moved it to where it would be on this creek. And through all of my life, for a long time, this creek has never ran out of water. But there's a perfect staging area right here that every once in a while, if you're lucky enough and you get down here early enough in the morning at the right time, sometimes you'll be able to get yourself a steelhead, sometimes you'll be able to get yourself a salmon. It's definitely not the most productive part of the river. However, it goes to show that the selection of this site to actually have a hatchery for fish to return to is really important. I'm going to show you another very historic location. Hopefully we can get enough of a view of it. I'm going to shift downriver a little bit. This one's cool. So right upriver, or right there, right around that turn, is a place that we know as Kiplings Rock. If you think that the name Kipling sounds familiar, that's because it should be, because that is the same Kipling, Rudyard Kipling, that wrote the Jungle Book. We're going to have a little story about the fish that he caught right up at that corner. So what I'm showing you now is the original hatchery house that was located a mile downriver. It's now a private residence, and the physical hatchery grounds that bordered right up next to Clear Creek. A lot of people drive by this every day, and they have no idea what this is. But this was the very first hatchery and hatchery grounds in the state of Oregon, clear back in 1877. So this guy right here is Rudyard Kipling. He was the author of the Jungle Book, and he wrote a multitude of other short stories. He fished the Clackamas in 1889 when he was on a tour of the world. He was absolutely enamored with the steelhead that he caught on that rock that I showed you earlier in the video that was up around the corner named after him. Of course, this was well before these guys here, who are hog lining outside the mouth of the Clackamas River. So anybody that says hog lining is a new technique is absolutely wrong. But this guy right here, Dr. Livingston Stone, he is a pioneering fish biologist, and he started the first fish hatchery in McLeod, California, and then the hatchery in Carver, Oregon, on land donated by Horace Baker. This was in 1877. And he really pioneered that fish hatchery for salmon. So this fish hatchery only operated from 1877 to 1880. After that, the new hatchery was constructed once again further downriver from this hatchery, and this one was actually taken over by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Commission. Now, the original fish that were stocked in that hatchery were fall Chinook. So for us in the Pacific Northwest, we would know these as tules. These are low river spawners. And if you saw the location of where this hatchery was in relation to the Willamette River, which is what that tributary feeds into, and then relation to that to the Columbia, and further out going to the Columbia River Bar out into the Pacific Ocean. These were very low river spawning fish. So that was that early propagation. So they would take these fish, they would milk them and take the eggs out, and they actually had hatchery houses where those were raised. The hatchery that's downriver will be the subject of another video that we're going to have. Not a lot of history exists on this hatchery itself. It's very hard to find pictures of the actual hatchery houses and intake weir and everything else. This has all been a lot of oral history that's been passed down from the local pioneers. And the reason why there's so much oral history is because there's been a large amount of preservation work done to actually save that area's history. And a lot of that has to do with, from the beginning of the video, the Horace Baker Log Cabin and the Baker Cabin Historical Society. So a special thank you to them for continuing to archive and save all of this information. A lot of people don't really think about that outreach, especially in our angling community, of that historical factor that we have to save. But the community has done a wonderful job of preserving that area and keeping that intact so that we can continue to learn about our history, especially our history in this area, being that it is the end of the Oregon Trail. So if you enjoyed this video, please, once again, make sure to hit the like, leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping to come out with some more stuff here in the very near future. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hope everybody has a great day.